My name is Jenelle Riley. I'm the Associate Features Editor at Variety. I'm so thrilled to welcome you to this first SAG screening with Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Congratulations on what a trip. Because this is a SAG audience, I always like to start by asking, how did you guys get your SAG card? You got an alarmed look there. You do have a SAG card, right? Yeah. We might have to ask you to leave.
I think it was a Matchbox Cars commercial when I was 13 years old.
Mine, I think, was The Sopranos. It was my first job. I'd never seen a camera, and that was it.
I got Taft Hartley on the Chicagoland Chevy regional spot that never ran.
I did a Halloween kids movie called Halloween Town that airs every Halloween.
Mine was my first movie was called I Heart Huckabees, and that was the first time I was on a set.
You know, I think I was up for a Please Don't Eat the Daisies, but I think the problem was Richard Dreyfuss stole it from me. They gave me the part and then they gave it to him, so I didn't get it then, but I think later I got it for like a series called Hey Landlord or something like that. I think that was it.
Wait, Rich, they actually told you we're giving your part to someone else?
Yes, they gave me a part and then they took it away from me.
Horrible.
Oh, ironically, mine was for CNBC. It was like Money Watch, and I had the cameras this close, and I had to watch the stock market go up and down and up and down. And now I'm here.
Good training for this movie.
I trained for this movie for that commercial.
So I want to, I guess, start at the beginning of the film. Leo, you are also a producer on this film, so what interested you not only as an actor, but a producer to come on board?
I picked up the novel. My production company, Appian Way, found this book, and to me, it really represented almost like a modern day Caligula or something. It was out of a different era, an era that I knew and was familiar with. But you know, it as you saw on screen, it was the height of the stock market. You know, debauchery, people, you know, incessantly becoming more and more greedy without, you know, any regard for their consequences. And Jordan's story really exemplified that period in an insane way. And those stories in his novel are just out of this world. You can't believe that they actually happened. I mean, when I picked up that book, I was like, and the boat went down after they tried to, you know, escape from the FBI, and the private plane crashed, and it just kept going on. And I really became obsessed with making this into a movie, and we initially set it up with Scorsese after Shutter Island. We were supposed to do it. We had the financing for it. It fell through largely because the studio had a lot of issues with you know, the content and the budget.
Dwarf throwing plays great in Ohio.
And then we sort of went on to try to set it up with different directors, but I really couldn't get Marty out of my mind. I mean, he's you know, he's somebody that's able to sort of encapsulate the underworld with such authenticity and bring such, you know, humor to these characters. I mean, Goodfellas was supposed to be a comedy, he told me. He really said that when he started out. And, you know, this was sort of tailor-made for him to do. So we had it set up with another director. It was supposed to go. And then ultimately I kind of weaseled out of it at the last minute and stuck with it. And then, you know, these guys at Red Granite, you know, Joey and Rizza, they got the financing for it, and they really said to us, and this was what really greenlit it for Marty. They said, "Look, not only are we going to give you the money for this, you know, we want you to push the envelope as far as you possibly can. You know, don't hold anything back. You know, go to the utter extremes." And once I said that to Marty, I said, "We just don't get opportunities like this ever in this industry. You know, people do not give you the freedom that these guys want to give us, and you know, the budget to make this really an epic tale of Wall Street in the 80s and 90s. So we have to take this opportunity." And thankfully, he agreed, and you know, that's what you saw up on screen.
Amazing. And for the rest, for the rest of the actors who don't have Marty Scorsese on speed dial, can you tell me a little bit about how the role came to you? Was it an audition process? How did you first get the script?
Mine was just a simple audition process. I went in and never heard anything, and then like the day before they called and said that I was gonna come read with you, and it was literally like really so fast, head spinningly fast. But it was like any other audition.
Only you're reading with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
So it's like any other audition.
Yeah.
There was no intimidation factor there?
No, he's a really nice guy.
Let's talk about him like he's not here.
Okay, let's talk about that. No, it was. I wasn't intimidated at all. I was just really afraid that on set and in that audition, I wasn't afraid of you or Marty. I was afraid of, for lack of a better term, fucking up the material more than that is the scariest part, is like not doing your job well or not doing it justice. But no, you were nice. Yeah.
And John?
Well, like most actors, especially of my generation, Marty's in a separate category, and it's kind of like a bucket list. I'll bet if you ask the SAG membership to list the directors they dreamed that they could work with ever, and now I know why. I got to be a fly on the wall. I got to be there. It was very intimidating because you don't want to disappoint Santa Claus. You know what I mean? It's like you're getting and he could not have been a happier, more inspiring person. And to watch and to be on the set the first day I was working with Leo and with Rob, who I also grew up really looking up to and as a role model. It was one of those moments where, Ellen asked me, the casting director asked me if I'd be interested in this role, and I was like, I jumped at it, and I got to be there. And you'll notice there's a lot of directors in the movie too, and I think the common experience among the people who have multiple disciplines is that they got to not just watch him as an actor and learn from his process, but also as a director how to deal with actors in such a great way and to get such nuanced, subtle performances in spite of how over the top it seems at times, but it never loses its grounding or its compelling storytelling, and that's, I think, a hallmark of Scorsese's work. So for me, it was a huge treat just to be around it. As you guys who've seen Swingers know, I've really been fixated on this guy since my earliest moments. So this was quite an honor.
And did you intentionally use the term bucket list in front of the director of the bucket list?
It belongs to all of us now, Rob. It's
My pleasure.
Ed?
I auditioned here in Los Angeles, and then a few weeks later, they had me and I think it was about 6 other guys go to New York to audition for Marty and Ellen Lewis, and it was fucking terrifying.
But now you can call him Marty, so it all worked out.
I don't think I ever called him Marty. I don't think I ever did yet.
I had heard that this movie was going to be made, and I had read. Thanks, Rob. You also have to forgive me. This was my first time seeing the film today, so I'm a little in shock and a little at a loss for words. But
Did you know how big your teeth were going to look on the screen?
yeah. Well, I had read the book, and then I had my agent Sharon is here, who's awesome. I guess I was on a list of people that were going to get to meet with Mr. Scorsese for the part, and Moneyball had come out, and that had afforded me the opportunity to probably just get to meet him, and Leo and I had known each other a bit, and we both happened to be in Mexico promoting a film at the same time, and I had asked him if I could just meet with him before I met with Scorsese, just to say how passionate I was about this character. And I had read the script and I had read the book, and when we met, we sat down, and I basically just said, he could probably say it better than me because I probably blacked out and don't remember a thing of it out of fear and anxiety, but I just said, unfortunately, I know who this person is, and he represents everything that is wrong with the world. He has no impulse control and is all about, he's an animal, and if everyone was like him, it would be Caligula. We would all be dead. We'd all be awful. And I just begged him and said, look, man, I really, feel like I can do this with you. And then he called Scorsese, and then I got to meet with him and audition, and it was like a month of terror. And then he actually called me. Leo was the first person who called me to tell me I got the part. So.
Wow.
Thanks, buddy.
I think that for all of us, except for you, Louis, I think you're the only one that has seen the movie up before today. And so we were sitting backstage. Had you seen it? Oh, okay. So I didn't know what to expect. I mean, you read the script, and I got to say, you get nervous because we're going to do a thing with a Q&A, and what if it stunk, you know? Then you're in trouble. But luckily, it was the reverse of stink. It was really good, and I was really happy to watch it. And I knew there were going to be laughs in it because but I didn't realize how many laughs and how big. The scene with you guys with the Quaaludes is one of the funniest set pieces I've ever seen in a movie. I mean, how brilliant physical stuff you were doing. Getting into that car. I mean, I was just dying. It was so good, so good. I mean, when they called me, Marty called me. I've known Marty for a long, long time. He called me to be in the movie, and I said, wait a minute. I mean, what do you want? I'm going to play Leonardo DiCaprio's father. I said, what's more unbelievable, that he's a Jew or that I'm his father? I said, I don't know which is better. But you did play it, and he played it great, and I had the most fun. I mean, he is you never know as directors, and John can bear me out, you don't know how other directors do it until you get on their set and you're one of the people. I mean, because you're always used to being the guy out there. The fun that he creates, the atmosphere that lets you free. I mean, some of the things that, Jonah and we all did, it was like, just let you go and let you improvise. And he's such a great person to work for because he creates a great playground. It's a great, great playground. And for me, the thrill to watch, I consider one of the greatest actors that ever graced the screen, to watch him work, that to me was a pleasure. So it was a great experience.
Yeah, I remember we had to pitch a stock. We had to pitch that monologue, and then I found out we were allowed to improvise. So I was like, I have one chance. I know everyone who looks like me in town is going to audition for this part. So I said, I'm going to make up my own monologue. Fuck it. And I pitched a stock to this guy, and I actually called for this guy, and I find out that he passed away. So I end up riffing information from his widow and selling her like $100,000 in stock. And then Marty says, all right, come to New York, and we have to audition in front of him. And I was mortified, obviously. But I think that is one of his many, many gifts, is he gives the actor so much confidence immediately that really makes you feel like, there's 2 seconds left on the clock, and, PJ or whoever, I trust you to go out and make that shot. And you have this freedom and confidence. I think that's one of his many gifts. So that's what I think
you should wear that hair all the
forever.
time.
That was another character.
Because once the movie's a big hit, they're not going to, the guy with the hair.
I do want to ask the most important question, which Rob sort of alluded to. How many takes did you do of climbing down those stairs or rolling down the stairs?
That was, I think, probably 2 days we were in that country club. But that was interesting because that sequence was actually 3 separate scenes that during all of our conversations we morphed into one almost, mini film within the film, like a day in the life of the lemon. And finding out that the house is bugged and him getting back to Donnie. And it was 3 things that we bound together and made. I kept on thinking of that, the helicopter scene in Goodfellas where he's stirring the meatballs and doing the blow, and then he's got to get the girl out on the plane, and blah, 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 and the intensity of that. So that was the nature of this movie. It was amazing. I mean, we knew we weren't taking on, great American literature here. This wasn't, Gatsby or Catcher in the Rye or something.
You wouldn't want to take on Gatsby.
It was, but the point is, it's like we had free form to play around and shred this material apart. Everything is based in reality in this movie, but, Marty's intent with this was really, you know, I watched a lot of like the making of The King of Comedy, and there was a lot of improvising beforehand that Marty did with the actors. All of us did it with our pitches, and a lot of the actors got together beforehand to sort of free-form riff. And then, of course, on the day, it turned into its own monster and took on 50 different heads like a hydra. But it was sort of controlled chaos. It was very calculated chaos, and he wanted it to be like that specifically. He wanted all the actors to have a loose sort of feeling in their performance. And it was the first film I think that I did with Marty in the sense that there wasn't a specific plot or specific ending, and there weren't all these moving puzzle pieces that had to culminate in a powerful ending. This was, you know, it was a story of a man's life, and an insane one at that. So, and that was his intent, to let it sort of spiral off into madness.
You've obviously played real people before. Is there a certain responsibility that comes with knowing that this person, I don't know if Jordan has seen the film, I don't know if you got to spend time with him.
I think he was supposed to be at this screening.
Jordan, are you here?
I don't think he is here, though. I think he is going to see the next screening. But yeah, so what was your question?
Oh,
Sorry.
I guess mainly for you and Jonah, were you guys able to consult with your real-life counterparts?
Yeah, we... no, he didn't, but we spent a lot of time with
Anytime I play someone real in a movie, they ask to have their name changed. And this is the third time this has happened. Moneyball, Wolf of Wall Street. And at least, I don't know what that says, but at least with Moneyball, I actually became friends with the real guy because he loved the performance in the movie. But yeah, we spent a lot of time with Jordan. My guy was uncooperative, so we changed his name. And,
he didn't really love how he was
rightfully
portrayed
so. I mean,
in the book.
absolutely rightfully so. But Jordan, to me, was the biggest
Yeah.
thing we had. Leo and I would go to dinner with him. We would sit and talk with him, and he gave us so much information. He was so open. Yeah. I mean, obviously, he wrote this book very candidly about his life, but that was amazing to have him as a well of information.
It was incredible. I mean, everything that was in the book, we just specifically asked him about that day. And most of the time he had, 15 other additions that he never even wrote down in the novel. So, we'd keep coming to Marty with more stories from Jordan. Marty would kind of, wanted to keep his distance from him because he wanted to be able to have a different perspective on the novel. So I was kind of like the middleman in between the both of them. But Jordan, what was great about Jordan was that he does not get embarrassed. He just doesn't give a shit. I mean, he's an open book, and he'll tell you the most hellacious stories that are just, I mean, I would never tell these stories. And he's just, he looks at it as a chapter of his life that is now past and was a learning experience for him. And so, he'll I mean, the stories in Vegas with Rottweilers, and I don't even want to get into it, but...
Well, if you were telling a story about that would be embarrassing about yourself, in hindsight, you would kind of like, oh, okay, well...
But he was enthusiastic.
He doesn't do that, he's just like, well, I did this despicable thing, and then I did this thing, and then I did this thing, and then he just sits there, and then you're... He doesn't judge himself. Yeah, he looks at it as a piece of his history, got him where he is now, and I just noticed that about him. It was watching Leo play that was he didn't judge himself as he was doing these things, which you nailed.
Was there anything that was too outrageous that you couldn't use? Because people wouldn't buy it.
There was a story with, it was actually not Riley, it was German Shepherds and blowjobs and girls in Vegas or something like that. That was never quite made it up on screen. I wonder why.
It's so bad that I wish I had never even heard it, let alone portrayed it on screen.
And for the rest of you, what sort of research did you put into your roles? Were you able to meet your real-life counterparts? In some cases, they might have been amalgamums, I'm sure, of people.
My character's name was changed as well, and I scoured Google for her real name, and that woman does not want to be found. I've tried, and obviously she doesn't want to be found. That wasn't like a very good chapter of her life either. So I did try, but I couldn't find her at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
My guy has a fictitious name, and if he does really exist, he's probably a very good lawyer, and so I choose to not look into it any further.
My guy is a real guy as well, but they kind of in the book. He's kind of has a different role, so he's an amalgam of a guy and then a bunch of other guys that I guess he knew.
I don't know if my guy's around. I don't think is he still around? Do we know? I don't think he is. But I hope I didn't kill him off just now.
He may be.
Is he still around? Yeah, I don't know. I met Jordan though after we did it. He came up to me at a restaurant. He said, "Hi, you're my dad." I said, "Who?" I didn't even know who the guy was. I didn't know who he was. I said, "What are you talking about? I know who my children are. You're not one of them." And then he explained that he is the actual Jordan Belfort. He's actually a good-looking guy. Not as good-looking as you, but he's good-looking.
He's in the film.
Yeah, he's in the film. He introduces him.
He's at the end. The guy that introduces me at the end is Jordan Belfort, in case anyone didn't know.
Who says he's never met
Auckland,
anyone
New
as
Zealand,
disgusting.
welcome for the big. And of course, he said, "The biggest badass I know." You know, that's his introduction about himself.
Nice. Jonah, you were saying something?
Have I met him?
No, I thought you were going to say something.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
And PJ, did you meet your guy, or was
No, I
it-
never. My guy is real though, and he lost his hair. He was legitimately like 17 years old, so he was mortified, and he went and did so much drugs and coke, and just till his hair totally fell out, and then had the same wig for like 15 years. But I guess my preparation was, I always remember, these are horrible people. As much as we build them, these are terrible, terrible men. So I guess all my choices were built on the fact, I'm like, this makes me feel so vile. I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do. That's how I prepared, I guess, for this role.
That candy bikini was one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen.
Yeah, we did. There was you only see it for one quick snippet. There was a bachelor party scene. And I remember for my bachelor party, we did some like crazy stuff, but I'm like, I'm not like a really horrible person. Like if I'm like wearing this fun outfit for my bachelor party, what are these horrible people wearing? So I remember I went to the Sex Museum in New York City just to look around and what can I find to like raise the
Wait a
bar.
minute, the Sex Museum?
There's a Sex Museum in
Is
New
there
York
an
City.
actual museum
Yeah, it's great.
they
It's
make?
terrific. You should swing by. It's a nice time. It's a
Okay.
nice time. No. So I went there and I remember those like candies I used to wear as bracelets as a kid? Well, I saw them. They made underwear version of those. So I had to pitch that to an Oscar award-winning director and costume designer, and they're like, yeah, let's do it. And that's what I wore in the bachelor party. You'll see for one split second, and it's pretty despicable. I think a lot of people, there's no back, by the way, so that's another thing a lot of people got to see. Leo saw a lot where he was sitting, unfortunately.
Oh my God.
Because I don't know if you remember, but the actress that was gnawing the candy off of Set was nibbling this candy, and then she turned around and she goes, "Hi, Leo, I met you when you were 18. You did basketball there." They go, "Action." She goes, "Hold on." It was one of those surreal movie moments as I had two girls, and that was one of my most unforgettable movie moments in my life.
Oh, God. My wife's not here, thank God.
You know, he brings up the fact that these people's actions really were pretty despicable. Did you like Jordan, or did you find that it didn't matter if you liked him or not to play him?
I think the thing the one line that defines him the best is, when we're on the boat and he says, "Jordan, wow, I've known guys whose parents were douchebags and fathers were douchebags, but you got this way all on your own." And it's true. I tried to ask Jordan about his motivation for, getting into this line of work and manipulating the stock market. But I think that he was just a born hustler. I mean, he was a born hustler, and at that time, you have to understand, there were all these loopholes within Wall Street where you could take advantage of these things, and there were sort of these gray areas of the law. And once you sort of set foot in that domain, it's like a drug. It takes you further and further and further. And that's what was interesting about this screenplay and Marty's approach to the movie, is that we don't really show the consequences of that. We don't show the people on the other side of the fence that are affected by all these frauds. It's supposed to be this giant, acid trip, this high, this addiction of greed and lust and money and drugs, and you're not supposed to see the consequences of that. And that's very indicative of, I think, what his life was like. He didn't even think about the pain that he was causing other people. It was just about consuming more and getting more and achieving everything he could and trying to outsmart the law.
But I think what's so great about this movie, and that it, and that it has all this humor and everything, but that character really represents the negative side of unregulated capitalism and what can happen. And we've seen it in the housing market collapse. We've seen it where people, if there are those loopholes, there will always be those people who will want to greedily exploit them, and it causes a destruction in the whole economy. And we've seen that happen. So to me, what's great about this movie is that it really encapsulates all of that in a very kind of entertaining way. But you get the feeling, you know what it feels like, because we've all lived through a housing collapse and the market collapse. We know what that's like, so we know what is on the other side if you don't even have to show it.
I do want to take a couple quick questions from the audience.
Just real quick to
Sure,
that, I just want to say just from something interesting about Jordan that for me at least, was Leo and I were at dinner with him one time, and we asked him, like, did you feel bad about the other people, like thinking of the other side of that? And he just said he kind of didn't think about it at that time, and then now if he could go back, he would have, if he could do the same thing without hurting those people, he obviously would have, And then he turned to me and he said, the person that you're playing really enjoyed the fact that he was doing that to those people.
Wow.
And that was like what gave me the most insight into playing him.
Please tell me you took Jordan to dinner at Benihana. That would be awesome.
No, but one time I was at dinner with him, and we saw the tennis player Serena Williams, and as I was walking by, she said hello to me, and I was being polite, and we were talking, and then over my shoulder, Jordan just appeared and was like, I'm Jordan Belfort. They're making a movie about my life. And it was great. I was like, he's one of the most entertaining people I've ever met in my entire life. Charismatic and funny and interesting,
So I asked that we make sure that these are questions, not statements, and try and keep them brief. Sure, right here.
Zachary Goodspeed, thank you all for being here today. What's up, buddy? Thank you, sir, for your amazing, fearless leadership. I would not be standing here today as I am without you. And just thank you for the casting your time. And, sir, how do you remain ahead of the pack with all these leading men out there? And how do you remain at the top of the list?
Did you
Thank
see
you so
this
much for
performance?
asking. Hold on.
I'm gonna have Jonah answer that one.
Thank you.
Question was about remaining ahead of the pack in a very competitive
I don't
industry.
know whether I'm ahead of the pack or any of those things, to tell you the truth. But, the truth is, I suppose I just never, if there is, I hate to say the term, a key to my success, but the truth is that I never, when I read a piece of material and there's a part that I have to play, I never question that. I just go full bore into it and, do everything I can to play that character and commit to it as much as I possibly can and never think about whether it's the right or wrong thing to do, and I just kind of go with my passion for it. How's your stuff with Larry Moss been? Good? Great. Good.
Let's take one, sure, right back here. Yep.
Hi. Since we're in the Writers Guild, can you tell us a little bit more about Terrence Winter? Did you retain him?
Oh,
How did we get from the book
true.
to the script that Fun Giovanni?
Yeah,
Terrence
it was really Terry's screenplay that made the. Look, the book is, there's two novels that it was Catching the Wolf of Wall Street and The Wolf of Wall Street, and Terry really came in and designed this movie like, a Martin Scorsese film. He felt that this era and this character had the energy and of a Martin Scorsese film. So he basically, catered it for Marty in a lot of ways. And if it wasn't for him, I don't know who could have done a better job in compiling all these amazing stories and making, the screenplay that they did. But it was one of those, screenplays that was incredibly hard to get going, but I just never left my imagination. I couldn't get it out of my mind. I thought that it would be a a disservice to the world if this damn thing never got made.
I'm really surprised to hear it was hard to get going with you attached as a lead and Martin, sorry to me, as a director. What were you
Well,
running
the
up
truth
against?
is, when you start getting into conversations with studios in particular, there's a lot of things that make this film, as insane as it is, sort of get cut by the wayside, and you start to sort of shape it and take little details off here and there, and it loses its edge. You miss the reason for doing it in the first place. It's those tiny little cuts that ultimately, sort of sanitize the film, and this film didn't need to be that. It needed to be its own animal. But, it was a matter of doing a hard R film about sex, drugs, Wall Street greed with, no giant explosions and a bunch of debauchery for, a pretty hefty price, because we wanted it to be an epic. We really did. We wanted it to be an epic.
Were there like people you met with who were like, "We'll make this movie, but no drugs"?
It was less that. It was like, just tone it down, take this down. And we've had a lot of experience of that. There was some of that with The Departed and some other films that we've done, and I knew that that always got Marty very agitated, and he doesn't like to be told what to do. But this was one of those rare opportunities with Red Granite where they said, push the envelope.
That's great. Sure, we'll go right here.
Yeah, with two directors on the stage and people who've worked with other directors, I'd really like to hear more about what distinguishes Martin Scorsese and his approach to actors and constructing scenes and leveraging that.
Question about working with Martin Scorsese.
Well, I mean, what I said earlier is really true. I mean, the director, aside from the incredible craft he has, and he shoots brilliantly, he's got a great use of music, all of that thing, he casts it all great. The key is to set a tone for everybody so that they can all give their best, and to make them feel comfortable. I mean, you've worked with Woody Allen, and I've worked with Woody Allen. He's tricky because he doesn't talk to you at all, He just lets you go. But with Marty, he's right in there. I mean, I was amazed at how, he's got, I think he's 70 now or 71. I mean, the energy this guy has is just incredible. I mean, long hours, and you had over 90-day schedule. I mean, I'm 5-6 years younger, and it's hard to do. It's a hard job, I can tell you. And to see the energy and the enthusiasm, and he never loses it, and he infuses, he infuses everybody with that, and that was a great thing to see. I mean, this is a man who's not gotten jaded at all about his craft, and that was a pleasure to see.
I think it's also important to just take a moment to reflect on the state of the industry now. Especially from the perspective of an actor, you're looking for challenges, you're looking for opportunities, and as less and less movies get made, and because of the nature of what's happened to the DVD business and the nature of big movies being better bets for all four quadrants and overseas, you have tiny movies that are made that are based on compelling material character pieces. Let's set aside the tone of the film or the rating, but just a character-based movie. You don't see, it's harder and harder for the studios to take chances on films like these, and it takes people like Martin Scorsese and like Leonardo DiCaprio to hold out and say, no, we want to make a movie like this. And not take the other easier bet for the people with the money. And then what happens is, if the movie does well, then they're rewarded for it, and more movies like this get made. But it is seen as a very shaky bet because it's not a guarantee. So it takes the courage of people like our director and our star and producers to make opportunities for all the rest of us to be able to participate in a film like that. And so I'm thankful and grateful for that, and hopefully could follow suit too, and so that we have a variety of things. I like the big ones, clearly, but I think that they're not always, I don't want just one flavor of ice cream out there, and that's part of what makes our culture so rich and our industry so rich.
Watching this film, I can't believe that after, 30-some years of making movies, Martin Scorsese can still surprise me. He can still do things I've never seen on film before. You've worked with him, obviously, multiple times. Is he still surprising you?
Absolutely. You know, what people have to understand about him is that, you know, to me, he's beyond a director. He's a professor of the art of film. Do you know what I'm saying? And I challenge anyone in the world to have more passion or more knowledge about cinema and its history than Martin Scorsese. You can't have a conversation with him without him talking about something having to do a personal issue and relating it to a scene in a movie. I mean, he lives and breathes cinema, and he sees it as the great modern art form, and he does it with his film preservation. You know, his passion is preserving these works of art that are, you know, pieces of celluloid that are going to dissolve away forever if they're not protected. That's his life's passion, and he has such a tremendous respect for what people have done cinematically in our history that he always remains humble. That's what's amazing about him. He's always humbled by what's been done before him, and he's always sort of trying to reach for something that he sees as above him in a weird way. And the irony is, you know, he's, you know, the greatest living director of our time. But from an actor's perspective, what is so wonderful about working with him is plot almost becomes irrelevant. You know, the more we work together and the more you work with him on a film, he hones in on the character and he hones in on what you're saying, and he gives you the freedom to riff and create something, and that shapes the story. He's not beholden to. He always talks about it. He's like, I don't care about plot. I don't care about plot. It doesn't matter to me. And it's like, don't worry about it. You know, ironically, we've done a lot of movies, like I said, like Shutter Island, which were these jigsaw puzzle pieces where they had to fit together quite intricately for a specific ending. But, you know, especially on this one, it was more about discovering the humanity of the characters, and that shaped the tone of what the movie is, and ultimately what the movie is saying, and ultimately what the plot is. And it's that kind of support that actors love and need, and I've been so fortunate enough to, you know, have in this film.
Let's take, I want to see, where are the women? Right there. Yes.
Hi, this question is for Leo and Jonah specifically. I know that there was a lot of comedy in the film, and it was interesting to see the dynamic between your two characters and how you kept it from going too caricature-y. You know what I'm saying?
This question about their bromance, basically, on screen. Was that chemistry pretty instantaneous?
No, it was a lot of work on my end to tolerate this guy and his behavior. I would say, well, I think that's a really interesting question about. I mean, first and foremost, in my estimation, we became friends very quickly, and it was very enjoyable experience to make this movie with him. He's a wonderful guy. And B, having done a lot of broad comedies and then done some dramas or you know, more authentic reality sort of film acting also, it, you know, the characters were very specific, but nothing that was funny didn't come from who the characters were and what situation they were actually being put in. And we also had real life events to draw from, because we had people who lived through this stuff. And the fortunate thing, at least from my perspective, was what they actually did was crazier and cartoonier than anything I had ever witnessed in real life. So it was just about bringing almost a groundedness to this actual behavior that had taken place. I mean, what do you?
I just want to say this guy right here is one of the greatest improvisational actors I have ever had the fortune to work alongside. He's unbelievable. You get in a scene with him and it's like fireworks, and you have to catch up with what he dishes out, because this guy, he's a genius. He's a genius.
Thank you, buddy.
Well,
I appreciate that. And honestly, you did get better over the course of the film. And so, and not because he just said that. I swear to God, I swear to God, 2 or 3 more movies, and this guy might have a performance that we could all be really proud of. No, on my mother's life, That is the greatest actor I've ever worked with, hands down, bar none, and that's the truth.
I want to thank you guys so much for sharing this with us today, for letting us be the first to take a look. Congratulations on an amazing film. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Did you guys like the movie? It's the first audience response we've had. Thank you.